Hello and welcome. And as I usually start on the note by introducing Boomer 11 to you guys. But today we have to talk about Kylian Mbappe. He is turning out to be one of the best to have ever played World Cup already. At the age of 24, he's scored 6 goals. That is just one behind Ronaldo, one behind Messi, two behind Ronaldo. And boy, oh boy, what a player he's turning out to be. I mean, 2-1 for Denmark till the last minutes. It seemed like it's going to be a 1-0 draw. You would say it was deserving because Denmark was competing, was toe to toe, but it needed the brilliance of Kylian Mbappe to break through. France 2-1 against Denmark's one goal that was scored by Christensen. And that is pretty much the last game that ended. And right before that, we had Lewandowski. Saudi Arabian fans were asking where Lewandowski is. Well, now you can find him on the score sheet of the 2-0 victory that they have scored against Saudi Arabia. And obviously, the first match where Australia won their first World Cup match after a long time with the one goal that was scored by an assist by the same man we talked about as we spoke. The only goal that we saw in that slight watch along is what turned out to be the deciding goal. I have with me Evil, three matches that have already concluded. Let's start with Kylian Mbappe and his contribution today. 2 goals allowed France to almost seal their route to the next round.
Yeah, well and truly, they are in the next round. They've finally broken the curse of that defending champions not making it into the next round in World Cups. So that's a very good news. The curse is broken and they are through officially. And for Denmark now, they will have to play a knockout against Australia. I expected Denmark to top the group, but then that it is otherwise so. And it is France who are going to top the group ultimately with what they've received. Unless if Australia goes on to defeat Denmark by a considerable amount of margin, and then France go on to draw that game against Tunisia or go on to lose that game against Tunisia for the liking. So that it is what it is. Kylian Mbappe, the words can't really describe how great a player he has become in such a short while in his career. He's gotten a World Cup, which some of the greatest of all times haven't. He has done well whenever the team has required him to do well. He's really stepped up in all occasions. He's become a player for all occasions for this particular France team. And if you look at the French team before the World Cup, there were doubts. There were serious doubts on whether this team can even progress into the next round because of what their form was, the way in which they were lining up against some of the teams. They had no combination which was set. They were trying out a lot of different combinations. There was no consistency. And to add to all that, the injuries, right? The number of injuries which this team had to go through, it just felt like ultimately this France is going to falter at some stage. But come the World Cup, it's the big boys who have turned up, and the big boys have turned up in a big way.
Yeah, Sandivan is already on the comment section saying, "Let's go Mexico." Mexico sucks. That's what Abel's also hoping for. I'm assuming because Abel says he doesn't support anyone, but then he does wear the Argentinian jersey to one of our lives.
I like that.
You take how it is.
We'll see
But
something on
let's
the show. Hope to do something with you very soon.
Yeah, we'll be back by the way on the cricketing side of things as well. We have something exciting planned for soon. We couldn't get through to our editors today, but we will be back pretty soon with cricket. But let's talk about this match right here. Right, we had Kylian Mbappe score. We had Kylian Mbappe score 2 goals. It did seem for the most of the match, because Denmark did seem like they had France covered initially. But then 61st minute, Kylian Mbappe breaks the deadline. 7 minutes in, and you see Andreas Christensen make score a goal from a corner, and then right after that, it seemed like the game was again going into a deadlock. But then 86th minute, come at the man, Kylian Mbappe.
Absolutely. I mean, the way in which he got into position, that pass by Antoine Griezmann was terrific. He got into position. You can't say it was one of the greatest goals, but then his positioning, his awareness is something which sets him apart compared to any other youngster in the world. Look, he's just 23 years old, and such a short while. I don't think anybody has achieved what he's achieved. And so you have to give credit to what he has done in such a short period of time in world football. He has lit up world football in a way which a lot of legends would have dreamt of in their career. And it's also to whatever you say about him, his off-field antiques and whatever has happened with him over the 1 year. I personally think the talent he's got, look, I did mention in the preview as well. The commentator is not so far away. He was the best young player in the last edition of World Cup, and he's certainly one of the best player in the world in this year's World Cup. And he is proving it. He's proving us right. He's proving us right
Yeah.
again and again why he's the best player in the world at this point. He's his game awareness, especially in this World Cup, where the way he's been able to drop in deep to have the receptions of the ball, and the way he's able to create it, way he's been able to involve Antoine Griezmann a lot more. And remember, he's not playing as a striker, and he's
Yeah.
playing as a left mid, which he likes to play a lot more. That's one of the reasons why he didn't like that in PSG as well. Um, so you have to give credit to him in all these aspects where French team needed him to step up, and he's been stepping up beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at some of the stats able that we have, from our friends at Opta, or at least on the Twitter page. Maybe let's just move on to their stats quickly. But let's start with Kylian Mbappe. The stat that's right here, the areas that he scored the goals.
Yeah.
Run me through some of this, because it did seem like he got in very close to the Denmark box, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There were times when he got very close to the Denmark box, and not just that. I think the number of shots he has taken in this World Cup has been the highest compared to any other player. So that's something which he's been doing very well through the course of this World Cup. And look at today's match as well. He scored 3 goals in this World Cup, and look, this is the entire thing in this World Cup. The most number of shots taken by any player inside the box. The XG is 2.3, which is outstanding XG to have, to be very fair. And the way in which he has been
Yeah.
able to position himself, the way in which he has been having those shots inside the box, 13 shots. So for him,
Yeah.
out of 13 shots, you
Correct.
expect him to at least convert 3 to 4,
And
and he has converted
also, I
three
mean, even
exactly.
as you mentioned, right, he's playing left mid, but even then, he's getting very close to the box. And look at some of the shots that he's taken. You would realize that he's very close to the box, and he's not many shots that he's taken outside the box as well. So, is that something that shows the kind of is that attribute really boils down to the kind of pace and dribble that Kylian Mbappe has, that he's able to get through so many defenders despite playing such a deep role?
I mean, yes, it's. I mean, I did mention he's playing deep role, but then Kylian Mbappe's tendency is that he always likes to get in front of the goal, regardless of he plays as a left mid or he plays as a right mid or even he plays a right back. He will want to get
Yeah,
in front of the goal. That is, he has got that
that
instinct
is
of a
Kylian
poacher,
Mbappe.
which is it's such an elite thing to have as a youngster, and especially at this age, he's been able to get in position. Been able to dribble past defenders, and
Hmm.
his finishing skills are top notch as well. He's got the pace. He can dribble past you. He's got the vigor. He's got everything to be ticked off. Now, if you look at that stat once again, you can understand that 3 goals have come very close to the goal. It's not even
Exactly.
far away outside the box. He's come very close to the goal, and that's a goal post, and that's something which is very good about Kylian Mbappe. The way in which he makes use of the angles, he knows where to position himself, and if you give him any bit of space, he will convert it. And the kind of shots he has had inside the box, 13 shots, and out of the 13 shots, the 3 which has been extremely close are the ones which has given him the goals. At the same time, you can say these are easy goals to score, but the positioning, the way in which he's gotten there, everything has been
Yeah.
elite in this tournament, and that's why you have
And
to
I
give
mean,
credit to
that's
Kylian
something that
Mbappe.
you don't get credit as a footballer as well, as a striker as well, right? You always talk about those long range shots. For example, the one that Pavard scored or the one that Ibrahimovic scored. There's some compliments for Abel's new hair. Yeah, congrats, Abel.
That's
At least, I mean, but then let's move to Kylian Mbappe, who probably will also be jealous about when it comes to your hair. But talking about just purely football, you see how Kylian Mbappe, you don't always talk about those goals that a player dribbles past defenders and gets through. I think there was this goal there was scored by Messi where he dribbled a bunch of Atletico Bilbao players. I don't know which year it was, but I think you will. That's one of any best Messi goals compilation. You will see that goal, but it still did not win the best goal of the year award in that particular season. So that's something that you see in football, right? Where such goals are so underrated, but those are the most difficult goals, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not discrediting people who take long range shots. They are beautiful for a reason because they're not easy to convert as well. But having to dribble past a bunch of defenders, especially when you have the kind of pedigree that Kylian Mbappe has, a lot of defenders are going to be trained on you regardless of you're playing well or not. So having the capability to do that, it is very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so because especially when it comes to a striker's instinct, we don't give enough credit to positioning of a striker. The way in which he has got game awareness, it's so important for the striker to have game awareness and to understand where the ball is going to be pinned in and to make those runs off the ball movements. A striker has to do a lot. I know it's one of the easiest job, as many say, but at the same time, to get in front of the ball, in front of the post, and to finish things off easily, you can miss and look like an absolute disgusting player at the end of the day. There's a flip side to things as well. And at the same time, you have to convert those chances and convert those chances when it comes to you. That's what Kylian Mbappe has done so beautifully so far in this World Cup. And in the last World Cup, he was just a young kid bursting onto the scene. And this World Cup, France really wanted him to step up because of the number of injuries. No Karim Benzema. If Karim Benzema would have been there, I bet this team would have been even more dangerous. So I think things have worked out for this French team so beautifully that they've really gelled well as a unit because of these injuries.
Fair enough, absolutely. And Kylian Mbappe has also looked very unselfish, as we spoke about. But I mean, that's something also that you run the risk with, isn't it? When you play, you try and score these goals where you get so close to the box. Inadvertently, when you fail, there are always going to be discussions about the fact that about the alternatives you've had in the box. Because obviously, when a player who's playing this deep plays, and a lot of credits going to Abel and not Kylian Mbappe. Yeah, I think I'll agree with you, Priyanka. I like Abel's hairstyle quite as well. But let's talk about Mbappe again, who's been the star of the show on the pitch, not in this video so far. But yeah, I mean, let's speak about Kylian Mbappe. And you always, when you run so close to the box, when you dribble so many players, there's always going to be conversations about you being selfish, because there's always going to be more alternatives, players who have been playing ahead of you, especially someone like a Giroud, maybe in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I have to accept another thing that, especially for Giroud, also in this World Cup, he was not a sure starter. For him to come in in that game against Australia, the way he showed his instincts, the way he could, if you give him the chances, he can convert better than anybody. And also for Giroud, it's been redemption for him since he's gone to Milan. He was a discarded player to a lot of extent. People did not like the way he was playing in. And another player I would like to now highlight is Antoine Griezmann. I'm
Oh
just going
yeah,
to
I
put
was
up a
just
stat.
coming here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the way in which his number of assists he's had so far in this tournament and the way he's been able to create chances, he had to play a number 10 role in this World Cup. We did discuss about it in our preview of the French team as well, how
yeah,
Antoine Griezmann is going to be the creative midfielder for this team. And what Antoine Griezmann has done is just that. He's been able to drop deep, have the reception of the balls, get into the box, pin the right passes into the box, which Mbappe and Giroud has really been able to receive and create their chances from there on. So I have to say, Antoine Griezmann has been supremely underrated so far in the French campaign, and a very integral part of them qualifying into the next round. So I'm extremely happy for the fact that the curse is broken, and the curse is broken not because of some luck. They have played extremely well. Denmark was another curse which they were having. They have broken the monkey of the back. In the last 3 to 4 occasions, they were unable to beat Denmark, and they were turning out to be a bogey team for
correct.
them. Ultimately, they've been able to defeat them in quite some style. Ultimately, you can say that it was a close game. Denmark didn't have their chances as well, but France team was extremely ready for it. They were well prepared. The tactics were spot on. They knew their limitations very well. Remember, there was no Lucas Hernandez as well in this game. I'd like to pull out now the graph to understand how things panned out.
Yeah,
We'll understand
vital
that
threat.
France a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I mean, as you look into this graph, right, you see that Denmark did start off really well. We spoke about it as well. Denmark looked like they had France figured out. They were crowding the box and then attacking on the counter. And that's where I think you see a lot. That's the reason why you see that Denmark isn't attacking as much as France is attacked. But you have to give credit to Denmark as well, right? Because the defensive acumen till the 61st minute, till the first 60 minutes, you would agree that defensive acumen was on point. They were very compact. They did not allow much space, and that worked for 60 minutes. And it had to be Kylian Mbappe's magic that broke through.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say at the same time, it is not just Kylian Mbappe, it's also to do with a lot of other players as well. Now, we give credit to the goal scorer more often than not. But that's because of the reason why, because they get on the score sheet and they get all the fame. But if you look at the midfield, I think we've got a comment on that as well. Um, All Chouameni has been outstanding because remember, in this World Cup,
Yeah,
they don't have the creative midfield of Pogba, they don't have the defensive work rate of N'Golo Kante. And for a youngster to play his first World Cup and to put in that kind of shift on the pitch, to run, to play as a box to box midfielder, to play as a number six in the same game, you have to say this kid is special. Olin Chouameni, for me personally, is one of the best players so far, best young players in the world right now. And I have to give credit to Real Madrid as well in the way they've developed him. Real Madrid found a gem in him. They invested in him at the right time. And even in today's game, the way in which he was playing, it was just outstanding. There's nothing to take away from the way he is played throughout this season. And even today's game, he looked like he was very disciplined. He's not like a player who's going to play rough and he's going to maybe not win any, he's going to get carded off at some stage. He's a player who looks very composed. He's a player who understands the game a lot more. He's a player who really sees, okay, this is the game. He predicts the game. He analyzes every situation in depth, which makes him way too good for his young age. Remember, he's playing as an engine room for this team. To play in a number six role for this team, alongside someone like Rabiot, who has not been the best of form for his club side, you have to say that Olin Chouameni has really taken up a leadership role in the midfield, and that's really given confidence to Dario Deschamps as well to go in with this lad in every game they play, because he sees something in him compared to Edward Camavinga, because Camavinga, as much as he's supremely talented, Orange Woman has got that cutting edge in him, which makes him extremely mature for his young age. His decision making skills, his game awareness, the way in which he really slows a game down when it needs to be. There was a point in the game where Denmark was really trying to slow things down, but then he took the control of the game. He slowed things. He controlled the tempo. Then he was trying to link up with Rabiot, Antoine Griezmann, get in position. He does not really advance forward, and that is exactly his job in this team. He does not need to advance forward because he knows his job is just to play as a holding midfielder, to control the entire midfield, and he's doing that by putting in an extreme amount of work. I won't be surprised if he's one of the MVPs of this entire tournament if France go on a long way in this tournament.
Absolutely able. I mean, we just speak about Antoine Griezmann, but an interesting, stat. I just was looking at some of the touches that he's had, and Antoine Griezmann is primarily an attractive player. But I was looking at some of the start points, and it is those start points are very close to the baseline, and it's very close to the the middle part of the ground where he started those runs, and you see where he's obviously pushing the. I mean, from where he's kicking the ball into the post or into the box to create those chances, you realize that the kind of distance he's traveling, right? And that means that Antoine Griezmann is having that kind of work rate to create chances to, contribute in ball progression. And how much important has his role been? I mean, you already touched upon it, but especially this adjustment, right? Also, I mean, we did speak about how Harry Maguire is playing well for country rather than club. Is it also got to do with the kind of system that France plays and the kind of confidence he has in his ability when it comes to France in comparison to what he was given at Barcelona?
I mean, even with Atletico Madrid, he has not been deployed in the right position.
I mean,
For
that was a
Barcelona, he
bit
was.
cruel, right, when it comes to Atletico Madrid, because there is for those of you who don't know, there was a clause in Barcelona and Atletico Madrid's loan contract, rather, where, if Antoine Griezmann had played 50% or more games of the season, then they would be, Atletico Madrid would have to, pay Barcelona a certain sum. And that's the reason why Antoine Griezmann only ended up getting 20 to 30 minutes every match at max as a sub. But now he's been brought by Atletico Madrid, and you might see you. Do you reckon we'll see the Antoine Griezmann on the whole back in club as well?
Uh, I mean, I hope they do, but then with Atletico Madrid, the system does not really help him to be an advanced midfielder. Either he plays on the wings or he plays as a striker or a second striker at times. Here, what Didier Deschamps has really identified, and which we also were very vocal about in our preview, is that you have to use Griezmann as a number 10. You have no other option because no Paul Pogba in your team. The creativity factor really goes away from the window. And only way you can, last World Cup, remember, he played as a striker. He played as a second striker. He plays almost an attacking winger. In the 2016 Euros, he played as a striker. So he has got the ability to play anywhere on the pitch because of the kind of ability, the versatility this lad has got. But at the same time, I personally think you have to give it to Antoine Griezmann for what he's been able to do with this French team. He's been able to really put in a work. He's been able to control things. He's been able to make those runs. Look at his reception points. The way he's been able to receive the ball way deep in the midfield, then make those runs, then link up with someone like Dembele. It also allows Dembele to make those runs. So he has been the player who's been dropping in and creating the entire thing. He's been the playmaker for this team by a far mile. And for me, at least, he's been extremely good in everything what he's done so far.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, as I already mentioned, I mean, as you spoke about as well, we're seeing how now in this match as well, he had an expected assist rate of 1.7, and he had an assist as well to one of the goals that was scored. So we realize how much I mean, Antoine Griezmann is enjoying this system that Didier Deschamps is playing. But let's look at some of the overall stats now between France and Denmark. The XG for France is 2.4. So you would somehow say that France is, by scoring two goals, Denmark has kind of gotten scot free. But Denmark's XG was 0.6. And it also shows that France had almost double the shots at 21 shots against, 10 shots of Denmark. But in terms of in terms of how many shots were on target, 7 shots only for France, when on opposite to it, 2 shots for Denmark, and possession was very close by. So do you reckon it was still a very close contest, even though the XG and the shots taken showed a different scenario? It's just because of the system that the two teams played that the XG is so low for Denmark. But otherwise, the two teams were on equal footing.
I mean, you can say so, but look at the number of shots taken by France and Denmark. Number of shots
Yeah.
taken by
I
France
mean,
is
you can see
21.
how many dots are there in the on the France side of things. That is in the
Yeah,
Denmark's final third, and compare that to
absolutely.
Denmark's in French final third. You see that a lot of spots are not really in the box also. A lot of it is way outside the box.
Absolutely, and you do expect a Denmark team to keep a lot more ball possession. That's the style of play they've adopted over the last few years. They like to keep the hold of the ball. They like to really progress with the ball, but the number of chances they've created, it has not really resulted in that. Number of shots whenever France was attacking. Remember, France. We didn't mention that they're not the most attacking team. They like to be more conservative. They are a pragmatic team in the kind of tactics they deploy, but at the same time, France are more threatening in the attacks. For example, number of shots, 21 shots, out of which I think close to 16 of them were inside the box. 16 shots inside the box, and that's a huge margin. And 7 were on target. They converted 2 out of it. Extremely great stat to have. An XG of 2.4 in a game is an amazing XG to have. That really says how France really dominated this game. How France were testing Kasper Schmeichel from every angle as possible. Kasper Schmeichel also had a very decent game if you look at it. He did make some brilliant saves through the course of the game. But then it is what it is. Ultimately, you would expect France to convert at least 2 out of the 21 shots they did. And they did that
Yeah.
exactly. And Denmark were not good enough. Denmark had a did not have enough chances. I thought their creative midfielder they could have been more advanced. They did not even, and also have to give credit to the France's defense and also Orlan Chouameni once again. The way in which he was dropping in between the defense in situations which also allowed someone like a Jules Koundé to make progression. Let me tell you one thing, right? With France, you don't see their wing backs making a lot of runs. You mainly see them maintaining a shape, staying backwards or not going forward through those. You only see their forwards doing that, but they've been able to do a good job. Upamecano once again had a decent game. Varane did not have the best of games, but then Upamecano had a very good game. Jules Koundé, you can understand, is coming off an injury, so he still looks slightly rusty. But ultimately, I
Yeah.
would say so. Theo Hernandez, Upamecano have been really well for the France team so far.
I mean, so that's pretty much, I think, from our side on the French game. Maybe let's talk about the previous game, right? The one between Poland and Saudi Arabia. Quickly, because all of us are here for one reason, of course, especially you, Abel, even though you're not accept it on YouTube. But let's talk about Lewandowski and his first ever goal in World Cup. It took him quite some time, isn't it, to really come with his first goal for the
Oh,
player of his nature.
he should have scored a hat trick today. He was extremely
He did make a
put
meme
in
out
front of the
of
ball.
a meal out of the next chance he got right after scoring that goal. But yeah, as I already mentioned, for those of the Saudi Arabian fans who are asking where is Lewandowski, he's on the score sheet.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm stand by
absolutely.
that. I stand by that joke, and I'll keep making it
Yeah, I
again
mean,
and again.
I love the way he has really, stepped up for the occasion. Poland really needed him to step up because you knew in this game it was a must win for Poland. If they would have lost today, it would have really put their position in huge trouble and would have made Saudi qualify, of course. But the way in which they were able to convert those chances whenever they got, understanding Saudi were pressing them, that was very clever from them. They knew they were going to play the long balls in, counter them because they were keeping a high line of defense. And when you have a player like Lewandowski in your striking front, you know that the moment you get past a couple of defenders, you will score a couple of them. And he assisted one,
Yeah.
scored one, man of the match performance today, extremely threatening in front of the goal. A Lewandowski, which you want to see in international football, especially in World Cups, and finally has turned up to the World Cup. And once that monkey is off the back, you know what Lewandowski can do. Argentina fans, be aware now because this Polish team has not conceded. Not just that, Chesney has had a great tournament so far. Saved a penalty, did not concede even against Mexico, and now the form Zelensky, Lewandowski have been in up front. I really think Polish team has really turned up to this World Cup with a lot of vigor and with a lot of potency for them to really get some results.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on, right? Spot on. They able. Let's talk about XG in this match and how it progressed throughout this game. And a little bit of surprise, isn't it, that Saudi Arabia was ahead for a long time? I mean, they did have that one penalty which was saved by Chesney, as you mentioned. I mean, what did really go wrong for Saudi Arabia this time around? Because they did look like a good team still. They did compete. It was not like they rolled over. And until that second goal, it was back and forth, right? Saudi was attacking very aggressively on the. I mean, they were almost knocking the door down on the Polish goal. But right after that 86, that goal from Lewandowski, things really changed. It seemed like Saudi Arabia had accepted their defeat, and and Lewandowski himself almost got a second.
I mean, the match started off in a way where every Polish player was receiving a yellow in the first 20 minutes. I thought that's how the balance of the game was. The referee was pretty strict in terms of the discipline today. Every foul he saw, he was giving a card. So, which meant Saudi also couldn't attack. Saudi also couldn't play an aggressive game, which they did against Argentina. They understood that was a limitation they had. Even though they were pressing, they were slightly conservative today compared to the last game, and the first goal which came was just a result of that. They were pressing and they lost the shape, which they did not in the last game. Today they lost the shape slightly, and the moment you lose the shape against quality of Lewandowski and Zelensky, they are going to convert. They're going to punish you badly, and missing the penalty was not doing them any good. They missed the penalty when it was not, when it did not require them to
Yeah.
miss. So this is the attacking play. You can understand
And I
Saudi
mean,
was
you always say
very
this,
good
right, in
today.
sport. You always say this in sport, even while you do, I mean, present that on the screen, that when you are on top, you should really take control of the game. And that's what Saudi did not do. They were on top for quite some time. It looked like, they were doing well. But then they never really scored that goal. And the penalty, especially, they got that penalty because they were forcing Polish defenders to, go out of their way and try and stop a little bit more physicality the Saudi attackers, and that's the reason why they got that penalty. But if they'd converted it, things would have been very much different because Saudi did look like a very good team.
Yeah, you can say so because ultimately Saudi did have a very good game in terms of the way in which they progressed themselves, the way in which they were able to control the game to a far extent as well. I thought they could have easily scored a couple of goals in today's game as well because that's the number of chances they got, including that penalty. And just barring that penalty, they did get a couple of very good chances which they really weren't able to convert up front in front of the goal. These are the chances which you need to convert, right? That's the difference between a quality nation and a team which did well against Argentina. There is no discredit to them, but still, when you compare them with the France, the number of chances which France got, they would have converted that much better than which Saudi team would have done. Or even if you give even if you give number of chances to the Polish team, they would have converted, and that's what they did today. They got a couple of chances, they did convert, and they came close quite a few times. They hit the bar three times today already.
Yeah.
One was a very good header. That was a header which I thought would go in. That was again once again by Zelensky. One again, Lewandowski. It was one-on-one with the one-on-one with Al Oaisi. He had a brilliant save there, and Lewandowski again hit the bar. So it could have well been a 5-0 kind of a game also from Poland, because whenever Poland got a chance, they did miss some sitters. At the same time, they went on to
Yeah,
convert one of the
yeah,
chances they got.
yeah.
So yeah, Saudi will have to really, now, they will take a lot of heart out of today's game, because they did not play all too badly. Whatever you say, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
they did put in a good shift in terms of the kind of game they had all throughout. And ultimately, I think that it is what it is.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just look at the attack. The attack attacking threat by both the teams. And if you look at it right here, you would realize that Saudi had a lot of plateau, as you would call it, on their ends, and Poland did not. But if you look at the Polish attacks, most often than not, that gave them a result. But in comparison, the same cannot be said about Saudi Arabia, and that's where the match is really won by Poland, isn't it? As you already mentioned, I mean.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at that plateau, as we rightly mentioned, Saudi did have a lot more attacking threats, which they did throughout the course of the game, in which they should have at least converted a couple of them, but they did not, and that is one of the reasons why you say they
Yeah.
ended up on the wrong side of things today. And they will take a lot of heart out of it. They will take a lot of heart out of the way in which they played today. They will feel like they could have done a lot better, which in my opinion also they should have, and they absolutely will give Mexico a run for the money. I really think they will be one of the strong favorites going into that game,
I
which is the kind
mean,
of game they've shown in the last couple of games.
Helga says here that Saudi were unlucky. Shinwari says Saudi played beautifully, and yeah, absolutely. We have to agree. We have to give credit to Saudi because at the end of the day, you have to realize that Saudi does not have a superstar like Lewandowski to bail them out of these kind of situations. And all the Saudi players are, a lot of them are homegrown talent. A lot of them play in homegrown leagues, and you have to give credit to them where it's due. They've turned up. They have been real fighters in this tournament, especially if to give some of the credit to probably one of their goalkeepers. I think he's really impressed me. Aloisi, he stood, I mean, 2 games, and you've had to face Messi and Lewandowski, two players who's I mean, a player who's won the most Ballon d'Ors in the world, Lewandowski, who should have won a Ballon d'Or, who's won the FIFA Best Player award. So I mean, it's not a joke to be a goalkeeper in front of these two legends of the game, you would say now. So credit to him. He's really faced them, and he's also faced two penalties now. I think no, not two penalties, but he's only given one goal each, two, I mean, three goals each to two of them. And you have to give credit to them. I mean, you have to give credit to a player like that. To also give credit to Saudi attackers as well. They've created chances, yes. And I think sometimes it is football is a lot about those fine margins, right? And things did not go Saudi's way. On another day, Chesney couldn't have been able to save that penalty, and things could have gone completely different. But you rightly mentioned, Abel, here that even Poland could have really taken the game by the scruff of its neck. But it was a kind of a game slightly frustrating.
Yeah.
But let's transition now. When you talk about frustration, let's talk about Argentina versus Mexico. Argentina, I mean, I remember I was watching some of the fan interviews, as they say, in hindsight, that went wrong. And there was a fan just before the Argentina versus Saudi Arabia game who claimed that it was going to be a practice match. And it turned out to be really a lesson for Argentina that they cannot take any players, any team seriously. I mean, cannot take any team, what do you say, cannot underestimate any team in this World Cup. And now they're at the brink of exiting the World Cup if they lose to Mexico. And Mexico, on the other hand, had a goalless draw against Poland. Now, Poland is topping the group. Saudi Arabia has gotten 3 points from Argentina match. These are the two teams now who will be really hoping to, win this match. And not just a draw, they want a victory, especially Argentina.
Yes, Argentina need a victory, and hence they made so many changes to their starting lineup as well. Today, you're
But
seeing
is
a
that a good
different
thing, Abel? I
starting lineup.
mean, is that Scaloni panicking?
It is a desperate change, in my opinion, because of what happened in Saudi game. He felt a lot of players weren't able to put up a shift, and he has gone with players who are in form at the moment. I have to say, Leandro Paredes hasn't been in best of form with the UA team. Uh, Molina was pretty awful, to be honest, in terms of the way he was unable to attack. And also with Alexis McAllister, it was only about time you brought him into the lineup. I had him in my starting lineup way before the World Cup because of the kind of form he was showing with the Brighton team. He's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League at this point. He scored 6 goals. He's created n number of chances. And for him to play in the left mid role, I think it's about time you deploy him. I was very shocked he did not start in the last game. And I'm still surprised with one thing. He's gone with that 4-2-3-1 system. I still don't understand why Argentina has never deployed that system over the last 2 years. All of a sudden in the World Cup, deploying that system. I don't know if that's the right way to go. And I hope once the match start, it is a 4-3-3 shape they maintain with Messi trying to play a free roaming role, Di Maria trying to come in the right hand side and linking up with Montiel. Uh, but to be very honest, it looks like a Scaloni who is slightly under pressure as well. Because if you lose tonight, they're out of the World Cup. All favorites, the world's best team. This is the best Argentina scored after whatever said. You're out of the World Cup. You're on your uh, r- way back to Buenos Aires in another 1 week. So that is what it is. That's how harsh World Cup can be.
Yeah.
You went a little easy against the Saudi Arabian team, and you did have to pay for it as well.
I mean,
You showed no intensity at all.
no, I mean, as you're talking about World Cup being a cruel game, I mean, there was a controversy, that the offside goal that Lautaro Martinez, the goal that was, I mean, said to be offside, when Lautaro Martinez had gone on a run. Now it seems that during the check, the offside check, the referee, the VAR referee had traced that, the last defender of Mexico had traced the wrong last defender, and there was a defender at the extreme end of the goal
Yeah.
of the ground which he forgot to trace, and hence why Lautaro Martinez's shoulder was offside. We'd have a discussion of the fact that maybe shoulders and arms at least should not be counted as an advantage in an offside. Now talk about this: how big, or rather how small, a margin like that can really hurt Argentina's chances now going into this match, and how difficult it is.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
I'm sure, as we've seen the reels, I'm sure the players would have seen it much earlier. I'm sure Lautaro Martinez has seen it. I'm sure all the players who lost against Saudi, that heartbreak, has seen it. Now that loss might be stinging even more, isn't it? And now, how do these players make a comeback?
I mean, that really did affect the momentum of the game as well. I did expect you had a feeling that Argentina were very deflated after that decision not going their way, and you saw that in the way they came out in the second half. They were slightly underconfident. They did not look highly confident in terms of them having the ball. Messi did lose possession right in the middle of the park, which led to the first goal. The second goal, once again, defenders were caught napping, especially Christian Romero, who's been pretty awful with the Spurs team. He's been continuing that form with the Argentinian team as well. Hence, you see Licha coming in, which is Lisandro Martinez coming into today's squad. I think it should have been done in the last game itself because he's been one of the best defenders in Premier League so far. Though he has looked vulnerable at times because of his height and whatever said, technically speaking, he's the best defender on the ball in the Premier League. When you compare him, you can compare him with Laporte, you can compare him with Ruben Diaz, not Laporte, sorry. You can compare him with Laporte, you can compare him with some of the best out there in terms of the players who are best with the ball in Premier League. So uh, it is what it is. Ultimately, for Lisandro Martinez to come into the side when the team is in trouble, now it is for him to really strike a partnership with Otamendi. Otamendi has been pretty decent. Even the last game, he did try his best. Whenever there was an attacking threat on his side, he was trying to give that cover. He was trying to use his experience. He knew he was able to predict the attacking threat a lot more. He was trying to get in the position a lot more. But Cristiano Romero was just unable to do so in terms of technique, in terms of pace. He was outclassed in a lot of ways, and even aerial duels, he was not able to. He was not even underconfident on the ball. It would just look like he was going to lose the possession of the ball to a striker who was trying to press him, which I think won't be the case with Lisandro Martinez. The moment you try to press Martinez, he's a true baller in himself. He'll play as a CDM in any team in the world because that's the ability he's gotten.
Yeah.
He can play.
In
He's
fact, he
done that
did play
role as
briefly
CDM
as a
right back.
CDM for Ajax as well, right?
He has certainly played as a CDM for Ajax. He has got that versatility in him. So that gives the Argentinian team a lot more confidence to to start the build up from the back, then to progress forward. So I think it's going to be a vital cog. And alongside him today, I think Guilherme Rodriguez, who's going to start today, will have to really put in a shift. I know there is no Leandro Paredes in this team, but then Guerrero Rodriguez will have to really step up and to really, make his mark felt in a game like this. But this is a kind of game where you really want to step up for your country. If you lose today, you don't deserve to be in the World Cup anyways. Two losses,
Yeah.
uh, you're out, but you don't deserve to be in the World Cup as well. As simple as that. Even a draw will really put them in a spot of bother. So you'll have to play the best football you have to play because this is a World Cup and you have to win games to win a World Cup. You can't sit and say, "Oh my God, I have to win a game to win the World Cup." You have to win games to win the World Cup. It is what it is. Especially in group stage, you have to get those results because in
Yeah.
in the knockouts, at least you can draw a game and go to penalties and get a result out of nowhere. So I still think
I
knockout stages
mean,
in World Cup are
as an
comparatively
Argentinian
easier.
fan, maybe you should be a bit careful about saying that because it's not been as easier the
I
knockout
mean,
matches.
it is what it is. You have to win
It is.
matches,
It
and
is. Of course.
you have to really show you have to show why you are one of the contenders for the World Cup. You have been unbeaten for 36 games. I understand out of the 36 games, you have won only 22, 21. You have drawn 14 games, but now you can't afford to draw as well. You have to play really good football. You have to really take the game
Yeah.
on, show some braveness a lot more. I know Scaloni is under pressure, but then he's a good man manager as well. He can handle this team very well. Argentinian players look very confident. They look very confident in the training. They look very confident with the statements they have issued before the game. So I'm expecting something positive as of Argentina. Not gonna lie about that.
I mean, yeah, it's time that Argentina shows the fight, shows the fact that they are deserving of the title of World Cup favorites. We did see some, glimpses of it in that Saudi match in the first half, but the second match was completely belonged to Saudi. So here is where Argentina will be facing against a good Mexican team. But let's talk about one player in particular who stands between Messi and the World Cup and the qualification next round. Guillermo Ochoa, he has been a man in the middle of the sticks for Mexico for quite a while. I mean, you might not have heard of him a lot often when there is club football going on, but whenever Mexico plays in a FIFA tournament, whenever he dons the green and white of Mexico, he becomes a goalkeeping legend.
Absolutely, and that's something which uh, which I personally think I as an Argentine fan will be very scared of. But this is what this
Yeah.
guy gives, right? And this is what this guy gives because of what he can possibly do and what he has done time and time again in the World Cup. That is very scary, and
It is.
he is a World Cup legend. World Cup folklore will remember him for what he's been doing for Mexico. He's been single-handedly
Yeah.
keeping Mexico in every tournament with his incredible performance. That too, not against small nations, against top strikers, against top teams. He goes on to put that really brings the best out of him. He's a player who disappears for 3 years and appears in the fourth year just for Mexico. That is what it is. He's a true definition
Yeah.
of the World Cup,
Yeah.
and he's a champion, man.
I mean,
But
every 4 years, the World Cup arrives, and so does Ochoa. And that's pretty much it.
absolutely.
Let's talk about one more player even that had really caught my eye in the previous World Cup. That was Irving Lozano, and he has been a very good player for this team. He's played for Napoli as well. But in the recent past, it's been a bit worrisome, isn't it? I mean, in the World Cup qualifiers, in the 10 matches that Mexico played, he's only scored one goal. In the CONCACAF Gold Cup, he played a match. He couldn't score any goal. FIFA Confederations Cup, he's played 3 matches, scored only one goal. Copa America, no goal in 2016. It's been a difficult period for him, isn't it? And especially in the Mexican shirt. How important is it for him to turn this, tide around and really start playing the way we know he can? Because he was one of those players who sunk the German team in the previous World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, Javier Lozano is a terrific player with whatever talent he has got, but then he's not really stepped up for the Mexico team throughout the course of this last couple of years. And it's also because Mexico team hasn't been the best. They've qualified for the World Cup, but nobody really did expect them to go a long way in this World Cup because of the kind of team they had, because of the kind of way they were not able to step up in these important moments. But once again, I keep telling for Mexico, when it comes to the World Cup, they often tend to progress out of the group. And that's been the case with the Mexican team over the last couple of World Cups. And in the last World Cup, especially them defeating Germany was a huge result. And that's how they play.
I
That's
mean,
that's
Possible,
that's one of the best
when you
players in the
say,
world.
right, they qualified for the World Cup, you have to realize that Mexico, United States, and Canada are the three probably the biggest countries in CONCACAF. After that, all you have is island nations, right? Like Jamaica, Costa Rica, Honduras, El Salvador. I mean, these teams don't have the kind of funding that Mexico, United States, and Canada have, especially Mexico, because football is one of their most premier sports.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Football is one of the premier stocks. Liga MX is one of the biggest leagues. When it
Yeah.
comes to American region, Liga MX is as big as an MLS or even bigger
Oh,
than
don't say
MLS
that in
at
front of a
times.
US fan because they are comparing it MLS now. It's become what do you say? Major Premier League soccer. So
Yeah,
don't say
either
that in front
way.
of a US
But
fan now.
But it is what it is. I mean, ultimately, you have to talk about the kind of players they produce. Some of the players play in the Premier League as well with Jimenez and all these lads do play in the Premier League. They've
Yeah.
got the talent in them. They've got some extreme amount of depth in them. But look, this is not the strongest Mexican team we've seen in a World Cup because a lot of the players are in the wrong side of their 30s. Some of the players, especially someone like Jesus Corona, has not even turned up to those World Cup. One of the trump card player for the
Right.
Mexican team. And I personally am impressed with Edson Alvarez from Ajax. He's been having a very good season with the Ajax team. At the same time, he looks like a player who's much more composed. That's also to do with him being in the top flight football with Ajax in Eredivisie. You could see the difference. For other players who have come from Liga MX, especially up front, they've really struggled in multiple fronts. Hence, they've not really had the best of seasons in qualification rounds, and now especially they've been put under pressure in multiple occasions against Poland once again. They did have their chances, which I thought they should have converted. Today is going to be their real test against a quality Argentinian team, though Argentina is coming off a loss. But today, everybody have to put in a shift to get in a result today.
Yeah, I mean, it is not going to be easy because I mean, as I just going through social media and ESPN, I mean, Instagram account has just put it the best possible way. What happens when an immovable? When I mean, I just read it out. I think it's better to quote it. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, and that's going to be Messi versus Guillermo Ochoa. We spoke about Guillermo Ochoa. Let's speak about Lionel Messi. A lot of things are already said about him. Whenever he plays, all the cameras are on him. And if those of you watch on Geo Cinema, you can definitely just put a camera on him, literally, and watch him play. How important is he in this match? Because he is playing in a very vital role. He's playing in that cam role where, in the middle of the pitch, right behind Lautaro Martinez with Angel Di Maria and McAllister on his sides. He is probably the key, right? And he did look very good in that Saudi Arabia game, even though some of the Saudi Arabian fans felt he was nowhere to be found. But he did have a decent game in that match as well.
He did. That's the standard which Messi has set, right? If anybody else would have had that game, it would have been like, oh, what a player to watch. But with Messi, you need to see at least couple of goals and couple of assists for him to really get judged. And that's the standard
Yeah,
which all
yeah.
these players keep setting. It's unfortunate for them, but it is the truth. For Messi, he did have a lot of chances. He did penetrate a lot of balls through. It was called offsides as well. But then at the same time, for him to play those through balls, for him to keep the penetration on, I also thought Argentina made a mistake. A lot of the attacks did start from the right hand side, where I thought it should have started from Messi because he's a focal point through the middle. And you could have brought in someone like even Papu Gomez into the game, which they did not. Maybe today with McAllister on the left hand side, I expect him to get a lot more involved, switch the wings. So it's just not a predictable thing. What happened with happened in the last game was they were very predictable in terms of the attack. You knew every attack was coming from Di Maria. It happened not just once; it happened at least 10 to 15 times in the same half where every attack was coming from Di Maria. Di Maria was the one who was doing it. If you keep doing that, any good team will be able to find you out. And a tactically astute manager will tell you to overload one area and to cover that, shut that space out. And Argentina kept doing it. That was a basic error which shouldn't have been
Even if I
done.
may just,
And I
I
hope
mean, if we use, I mean, I'll let you continue, but it just seems like FIFA is reporting that Argentina are going with 4-4-2 system with Lautaro Martinez and Lionel Messi at the top, and then you have McAllister, Angel Di Maria playing as left and right mid, and then Rodriguez and DePaul in the middle as I mean, holding midfielders, you would say. So you reckon now who is right? I mean, that's a confusion that we've had a lot already in this World Cup in the past as well. But is 4-4-2 the better way for Argentina to go?
I think it will be a 4-4-2 in terms of their transitions, in terms of the shape they'll maintain, because
So
Messi will
maybe
play as a
it's
second striker
Scaloni
up
who's
front.
confused the two, right?
Yeah, it is a decent system for the Argentinian team because I still prefer it better than the 4-2-3-1 system. 4-4-2 is a very old school system, but but at the same time, not a bad system with this team. It really helps Messi to be the second striker. Still gives them the free roaming opportunity with Di Maria playing from the right hand side and McAllister on the left, which I think is a decent job to be. He's a decent player there. And the two players who will control the middle is Gray Rodriguez and Rodrigo De Paul. And tonight, it's going to be so important for Rodrigo De Paul to dominate the midfield and to penetrate through and be a creative midfielder as well, alongside Messi right behind him, and which will help these players to make those runs and get in position.
Mexico are playing 5-3-2, five at the back system to stop Messi and Lautaro Martinez. You're going to see Mexico play a lot deeper and, attack Argentina on the counter, something like what probably Saudi, something or maybe the opposite of what Saudi tried to do. Is that what you look at how they are going to go ahead with?
With the Mexican team, they are slightly defensive minded under Tata Martinez, and they like to maintain a shape. They won't be the team who will press as much as Saudi. They will be a team who will play on the back. They'll wait for the counter attacks and maybe see where things go for them. So they will look to attack Argentina on the counter, where Argentina is slightly more confident uh, of South Mexico deploying that system, but at the same time, if Mexico is trying to take a leaf out of what happened in the Saudi Argentinian game, I think they should look to press Argentina, test them a lot more, put the pressure on, and see how Argentinian team responds.
So as we spoke, right after the kickoff, Herrera tried to send Irving Lozano right into the Argentinian goal. It did not work, though. It did go to the goal. It did go behind the goal line for a goal kick, and now Argentina is in possession of the ball. But long ball system, Abel, is that also something that Argentina should be worried about when it
Yes,
comes to Mexico,
they should be.
especially
They
when they're
should be
playing
because in
five
the
at the
last
back?
game we saw a couple of occasions where the long balls were sent in. Defenders looked highly uncomfortable, and with Lisandro Martinez, I know he's good
Yeah,
in winning the aerial duels, but
exactly.
the height
That's
is
my
another
point.
factor.
Is that something that they've identified with Lisandro Martinez playing now that they can try and attack air balls? Even though, you think about it, Lisandro Martinez has done well when it comes to air duels. So how important now is Otamendi and Martinez coming together? Because we expected Otamendi to be the player who will probably miss out if Martinez played. Did you expect Christian Romero to be replaced, or is that just a panic move, or was it
I did,
deserved?
I did. There are reports also that he's not completely fit. So it was only time that he gets replaced, and he's been having a very bad season with Spurs as well. He's not looked
Hmm.
like the Romero of the last year, where he looked highly confident. He's looked very vulnerable on the ball. I don't know if that's because of his injury or whatever it is. That's really exposed Argentinian defense to a huge, huge manner. So that's a reason I
Yeah.
would say.
All right, fair enough. Then that's pretty much what we had. Able. Let's talk about the one last thing. Okay, Aisha. Let me just take some of your comments then. Hi, Aisha. Great to see you back again. Yeah, Saudi did lose, and yeah, I think she is right. We did speak about it as well. Able. The moment Saudi missed the penalty, that moment they lost the match. Yes, we did speak about this as well. It could have been a turning point. Obviously, you never know because I mean, it could. It still they still lost 2-0, so it could have been 2-1 maybe. But yeah, regardless, maybe that could have been a turning point when it comes to momentum of the game. Jack Grealish, Aisha, is the same person on whom Abel has modeled his hair. So if you want to know who Jack Grealish is, he's the English version of Abel. That's pretty much about Jack Grealish. He plays for England. Just another tip. So that's pretty much Jack
I really
Grealish.
wonder why that question has been asked specifically today. Aisha doesn't even watch football, and it's weird.
See, I think Aisha is a lot smarter than what you think, Abel. But so yeah, that's pretty much it. Then Abel, let's look at the fantasy lineup. I know we're a bit late because match has already begun, but we can
I
definitely
think there's
talk.
no point of looking at that at this point.
So I suppose it remains with Abel. Aisha says Jaren wo handsome hai. Do you reckon Abel is not then?
What? That's okay. I'll accept it. She's not wrong.
That is just a dig that from my end. I like to trouble Abel quite a bit. Someone has to keep him grounded, right? At the end of the day. But thank you, Abel, for joining us. And pretty much, unlike the match that Australia and Tunisia played, we are not going to be covering any goals. maybe by the time I finish my monologue, something might happen. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Let's hope for the Argentinian fans. Today is a day that they rejoice and they get their first 3 points on board. While for some people,
Whatever I've
but some
seen,
people,
the Mexican team has looked to press Argentina in the back line. They've understood that, as I mentioned, Mexico
yeah.
will try to look to take a leaf out of the Saudis' book and try to press Argentinian team because they know they're vulnerable at the back on the ball. So that's something which they're trying to expose and looks good so far.
Yeah, but then I also see the fullbacks of the fullbacks of Argentina are making longer runs. Even right now, just at this attack, as you see, three. There were only two defenders. There were only two defenders before one of the midfielders had to come back, track back. You saw that both Acuna and on the other end, who's on the other flank? I think two players. Wait, let me just. Yeah, it was Montiel and Acuna, if I'm pronouncing it right. Able, the two players had made a longer, deeper run into the Mexican. What do you say? Mexican end, and okay, I'm not going to take the last comment of Aisha, but so that's something you reckon able is Argentina trying to create something on the wings, even though we haven't seen the two players get any service yet, but you reckon they'll come into play very soon because
It
Angel Di
will do.
Maria at this in this attack just now, Angel Di Maria was even Angel Di Maria was behind the line compared to where Acuna and Montiel were.
I mean, yes, it was. I think we should do a watch along, to be very honest, because it's getting interesting. How about we do a watch along, guys? Do let me know if you want to do a watch along. We can do it. We are open to doing a watch along. If you want, do comment
Absolutely
right now.
okay.
We will do a watch along because this match is getting interesting. And yeah, you are right. In terms of the attack, they are trying to attack from the wings, which meant see, Argentina have to create chances in this game, and they know what they have to do. Which will also mean that Mexico will get an opportunity to attack on the counter. This was an exact thing of what happened right now.
And we just saw that,
But
right? Just now, I think there was a tactical foul which was made, and that's where I think the referee had to stop the play. But we did see that Mexico did hit them on the counter, right? And that's exactly where they hit them. They hit them on the flanks, and and then I don't know. I think one of the midfielders had to come back and track back and make the save. Make the defensive tackle in.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something which I was just looking at as well in terms of how they've been able to not, make those defensive transitions quickly. I still think someone like Gideon Rodriguez should stay slightly behind, deploying such a system, at least in front of the defender, so it gives someone like Lisandro Martinez to drift slightly wide, so that the left hand side is not exposed. I know centrally you are more compact. You will have a couple of men in Otamendi and Lisandro Martinez, but if Gideon Rodriguez can drop in slightly, that really covers those half spaces on the left hand side, which will help them to cover back when it comes to defensive transitions at least.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it seems even no one is interested in our watch along. Let them. I suppose everyone wants to watch alone, and that's where we'll end. Then, Evil, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And once again, you can and you must definitely download Boom 11 on Apple App Store and Google Play and experience the risk-free fantasy experience that it provides. You don't have to invest any money. You don't run the risk of losing any money. But at the same time, you do have the reward. So there is no risk, but a lot of reward waiting for you once you get into the app. And Aisha, no need to be. No need to be upset. Thank you so much for your comment. And you don't have to delete it. And also, you cannot delete it on the chat. So you're pretty much
Yeah,
trapped
you
there.
can't delete it on the chat.
But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you everyone, and thank you for the lovely comments in the chat as well. As you all know, we love taking your comments and whatever nature they may be. We would like to have some fun here as well. Thank you, Abel, for joining us. Hopefully, we come tomorrow with some good
We'll try
news
to
for
come
Argentina.
after the game if possible, or tomorrow, so whatever it is. Yeah, we are not doing a watch along. We would love to do it. Maybe very soon we'd like to do a watch along. I think it's gonna be fun doing a watch
Maybe
along.
one of those. Maybe once the knockouts begin, we'll definitely try and because 3-4 matches a day, it's very difficult to concentrate on one. Once the knockouts begin, that's when we really start focusing on each and every match in depth, a lot more statistical analysis as well. Uh, we'll start the previews as well, very much in depth. But thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, Aisha, will definitely take care. Take care as well, Aisha. And health and safety from our end to you and your loved ones. Also to everyone else watching, thank you guys for joining us. I've said this many times now, but I will be taking your leave. Bye, bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a good time, all of you. Bye bye.